to the NXT Podcast, your home for weekly NXT reviews and insight.
The beautiful part of NXT is that when one dream ends, another dream begins.
Find all of your NXT news, recaps, and analysis right here. So with that being said, we only have one question for you.
Are you ready?
We thought so. Let's get the show started right now.
Hey everybody, it's Jay again with your NXT review. This week emanated from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, Winter Park, Florida. This is the review for this week's NXT episode that aired on the CW on February 11th. And let me tell you, there was so much that happened. This was the go-home episode for Vengeance Day, which is Saturday. And there was so much that was going on, and I want to talk all about it. But first, let me talk about Ricky Starks. So, before I get into the event itself, right before the main event, which was the cage match between Tony D'Angelo and Ridge Holland, which a lot happened with that one too, but we'll talk about that later. We have Ricky Starks come out. Now, he didn't say his name. He just said, "You know who I am." And then afterwards, the announcers were like, "Yeah, we know who he is," but nobody actually ever said his name. So those of you that don't know who he is, Ricky Starks came out in the crowd with a microphone and basically said that he is now in NXT. Now, here's why this is interesting. Excuse me. So Ricky Starks was on AEW for years. Back from almost when it started in 2019. And there's actually a lot of guys. If I don't know if you know this, there's a bunch of guys, 3 of them off the top of my head that I can say that besides Ricky Starks that have jumped over from AEW to NXT. Ricky Starks has been in AEW, like I said, since almost the beginning. And here's the thing: for the last year, this guy, who, from what I've been told, and I haven't seen him wrestle, but from what I hear, he's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and no slight to AJ Styles. And here's the thing: he hasn't been on AEW TV for like a year. Now, I've done some research between the episode on Tuesday night and today. So here's some of the things I found out. Ricky Starks was on an episode of the Chris Van Vliet podcast, the interview that he did, the interviews that he does. And there's a possibility, now I'm not certain of this, but there's a possibility that the reason why Ricky hasn't been on TV basically since last year at WrestleMania was because Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, had a problem with him. Now, he keeps saying he doesn't have an issue with him, but then again, he hasn't been on TV for a year, which just doesn't make any sense because, again, from what I hear and from what I've seen from like 1 or 2 matches that I've seen him in, he is absolutely amazing. So, Ricky, last year, went to WrestleMania. Now, he was told by Tony Khan that he didn't have a problem with him going to WrestleMania. However, again, he hasn't been on TV basically since then on AEW. Ricky says that he went to see Jade, Jade and he worked together in AEW, and Cody and he worked together in AEW, and he wanted to see them perform. Why wouldn't he? I mean, this is WrestleMania. This is the biggest show in wrestling, period, in the United States, probably across the world. Unless you talk Wrestle Kingdom and New Japan, but that's a whole separate conversation. So, it seems like Tony Khan has had a problem with him. Now, he has been on the active roster for AEW now since last year's WrestleMania, but again, not being used. then Monday, from what I heard in my research, Monday he was taken off the active roster of AEW. And along with Malachi, Aleister Black, who was in WWE before, and now he is AEW. It's Aleister Black in WWE, Malachi Black in AEW, and now he's free agent again. And Rusev, who also who had a different name in AEW, but he was Rusev in WWE. Now, they put together, from what I hear, a contract with Ricky Starks after he was released from AEW on Monday, really quick, like within a day. And then he shows up to NXT. They didn't have any plans for them. It was just a, here I am, I'm here, just so you guys know, which obviously if you watch the episode, which you wouldn't be here, most likely you wouldn't be listening to me if you hadn't seen the NXT episode. He came out, he did his Ricky Starks things, and that was it. It was just an intro, like, hi, here I am, this is me, goodbye. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Let me say, Ricky Starks could be, if they wanted him to be, could have been main roster ready. However, most likely they want to have him do some work in NXT first before moving him up. But I will tell you this, they will, whatever they call him, whether it's Ricky Starks or something else, they will immediately put him into the world title picture, or the NXT title picture. And let me say this, it needs it. Now, as much as I hype the women's division on NXT, the men's division, you've got Oba and Trick, and then you drop. Maybe Tony D'Angelo is close there, and then it just drops. The men's division needed a kick in the butt, and I think Ricky Starks is going to give that to him. For now, they need more, but he definitely will help the process. I mean, think about it. This weekend, Oba Femi is defending a title in a triple threat match against nobody from NXT. He's defending it against A-Town Down Under. Maybe we'll see the split. Probably not, between A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory, and Grayson Waller. But Oba Femi, they had to pull those two in to go against Oba Femi. Why? Like, why? Why would they have to do that? Because the roster is so small. Trick Williams is doing a program with Eddie Thorpe. I have a big issue with Eddie Thorpe. I've already mentioned that. I'm not going to say it again. But Trick Williams is going against Eddie Thorpe. Tony D'Angelo had a match tonight against Rich Holland, so he's nowhere to be seen for Vengeance Day. Most of the matches this weekend are, like, the women's North American title match. We have the tag team title match between Fraxium and you guys, you've seen what happened on. We'll talk about it on Tuesday, the triple threat tag team match, which wasn't for the number one contendership, which ended up being for a number one contendership. That was kind of weird. And then we had the triple threat match for the world title. We have Trick versus Eddie Thorpe, and we have Javon Evans versus Ethan Page, and obviously Ethan Page I would put up in the top pedestal there. And that's Vengeance Day. Like, again, they're not very male superstar heavy in NXT, but they're hugely in the women's division heavy, which obviously is awesome. So let's talk about the episode aside from the Ricky Starks stuff. This was really a great episode. There was so much going on. Again, we talked about this is from the facility in Orlando, Florida, Winter Park, Florida. They had this was, like I said, it was the go home show for Vengeance Day, which happens on Saturday the 15th. Again, I will be doing a review podcast from the snowy Northeast on Sunday morning. Snow again. And there were 4 matches tonight. there were 4 matches because of the Ricky Stark stuff. There's some other things between Oba and A-Town Down Under. There was women's championship match stuff. And then there was a cage match, which they have to, this is the Performance Center. They can't leave the cage up like they do in an arena. They have to put it up. So it took some time to do that as well. Okay, so here's some of the highlights. First match we had is Cora Jade versus Bayley, which was a great match. Cora Jade looked awesome. I think Bayley made her look awesome. She got there was an attack. And towards the end, this was interesting. So towards the end of the match, Roxanne comes out dressed as Hugger Bayley. If you go back to when Bayley first came up to the WWE, she was dressed in pastel colors. She had the straps hanging down from her arms. So she came out acting like and dressed like Hugger Bayley from the beginning. And of course, Bayley didn't appreciate being made fun of. So she went out of the ring to confront Roxanne. It was actually kind of funny to see the Hugger Bayley thing. So Roxanne, from the distraction, Cora Jade came out, gave her a double underhook DDT on the floor, threw Bayley into the ring, and Cora gave her another double underhook DDT in the ring, and picked up a win. Cora Jade picked up a win against Bayley. That's not something small. That's a big deal. And, that's something to look at in the future. But it did, because she did that, and this is weird how this worked out. So, during the match, Ava whispered something in Julia's ear, who was backstage watching the match. And then after the match was over, Ava came out to announce that Cora Jade will be added to the NXT Women's Championship match. So this is making it now a fatal 4-way match with Bayley, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and of course Julia as the champion. So I still think Julia retains. I don't see her losing the title until at least Stand and Deliver in April. We'll see how that goes. I think Roxanne's going to be moved up soon. I mean, Roxanne also then now has a match on Monday against what's her name? Raquel Rodriguez for the Elimination Chamber. I know that people are writing Roxanne Perez off against Raquel, but I see some shenanigans happening, and I would not be surprised if Roxanne ended up in the Elimination Chamber, a la Tiffany Stratton last year. So that will be kind of interesting to see. So anyway, the winner of the match was Cora Jade, which, again, the fact that she beat Bayley is no small task. Then backstage, you've got Sol Ruca and Zarya talking about going to the beach, which I can't really see Zarya going to the beach. Of course, Sol Ruca for sure. And then Nikita Lyons, God, please, Nikita Lyons is... She's not entertaining to me at all. The way she talks is thuggish. I don't really particularly care for her character. I like the way she works in the ring. The match between... I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Nikita Lyons makes it known that she believes that Sol Ruca is holding Zarya back. And then ended up becoming a match tonight between Zarya and Nikita Lyons. So this was a pretty good match, and we'll talk about that when we get to that. So after that interaction, we had Oba Femi and A-Town Down Under. So Oba Femi comes out to the ring, most likely to give a glimpse into his plans for Vengeance Day and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And Grayson Waller and Austin Theory come out, and they start basically jarring at each other, like, I'm going to be the NXT champion. No, I'm going to be the NXT champion. Blah, blah, blah. And then they start play fighting, but not really hitting each other. And then Austin Theory goes to hit Grayson Waller, and Grayson Waller ducks and hits Oba Femi in the face. And then they both start attacking Oba Femi. So the whole thing is a setup. Duh. They're gonna tease. This is the problem with this match. The match on paper is not bad. It's weird to me though. Like, it's weird to have Oba and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory together, because it's really going to be a handicap match of sorts. I don't see the breakup from A-Town Down Under, or if I was going to see the breakup, it wouldn't be on NXT. It would be on Monday Night Raw, and they just got moved to Monday Night Raw. Like they're not going to pull the trigger on that. Not now, not here. So anyway, they start getting up on Omafemi, and that was pretty much the end of that. My prediction as I'm doing predictions as we go through Tuesday night, my prediction is Omafemi is going to just beat the snot out of both of them. They're going to make it semi-competitive, but ultimately, Omafemi is going to just destroy both of them, I think. So then we have Eddie Thorpe, who he challenged Trick Williams to a strap match. So last few weeks, Eddie Thorpe's been coming out with a strap and whipping Trick Williams with a strap. So Eddie Thorpe next and challenges Trick Williams to a strap match, which later on we'll find out if he accepted. I'm sure that there's a question that he may or may not, right? Right. Sure. Then Javon, there's a doctor that talks about Javon Evans, and it's funny. They talked about, how they've been trying to make the process of Javon Evans' jaw healing faster. Like with what? Vitamin B12? Like, I don't understand. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we're trying to speed up the process of healing. I don't think it works that way. However, Javon Evans was cleared, although the doctor for him was concerned that if he gets hit in the face, that there could be some permanent damage and he could break again. His jaw could break again. And of course, Javon Evans is like, I don't care, I'm medically cleared. And so Avis has Javon sign a waiver that says that the WWE is not held responsible, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, this is going to be a great match. It's Javon Evans versus Ethan Page. It's going to be a great match. I think Javon Evans actually ends up pulling up the victory here. I don't think you go through all these weeks of, him getting killed, getting, the jaw thing. It's the whole thing with Cedric Alexander, who's now not in NXT anymore. He was released. I don't know if anybody heard that. We'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, Javon Evans got cleared. There's going to be a match between Javon Evans and Ethan Page. And I think if I had to guess, and if I was a betting person, which I only am sometimes, I think Javon Evans wins the match. Clean. That's just my own personal opinion. And we'll have to see how that plays out. So then we have the third match, which is a triple threat tag team match between Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura versus No Quarter Catch Crew, Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne, and Hank and Tank. And this match was a lot better than I thought it would be. Actually, it was very entertaining. Really good match. Okay, so Josh Briggs and Yokishi have not really had much of a match at NXT now, but the Hank and Tank are really entertaining. These two were really good. Tavion and Miles Bourne are really good too. It was a great match. Like I said, a lot better than I thought it would be. Josh Briggs and Yokishi Inamura end up getting the win of the tag team triple threat match. So, yeah. So after the match is over and they won, again, not a number one contender match. However, Fraxium then comes out on the balcony and says, "Good job, you won. Now you get a tag team title match." So now they've just made a new match 4 days out from Vengeance Day. There's now made a match which is Fraxium versus Josh Briggs and Yokishi Inamura, and that should be a great match. I mean, listen, Fraxium don't put on bad matches. They had a match last week against the Nemeth brothers on TNA, and I gotta look it up on YouTube because from what I hear, it was a phenomenal match. But yeah, no, it was the triple threat tag team match was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Then we're backstage and we have the D'Angelo family, and Stax and Tony D'Angelo have a moment where they squash their little arguments that they have. The rest of the family around, and the two of them seem cool again with each other. The family's around, which is all of them, and then also Izzy Dane is there as well. So I guess she's kind of an outside part of the family at this point. Then we have an NXT Heritage Cup match with Lexis King versus JDC from TNA. He's on TNA. As in the System, they're called. This is a group called the System. He made his debut last week, so a lot of people coming in out of TNA, and TNA NXT. It's almost like you said NXT-TNA, right? So this was a really good match too. Ultimately, I never saw them really giving a TNA wrestler any championship. So Lexis King ultimately did win the match. They did have the new rules, which is basically regular rules. Lexis King last week said that he was going to stop rounds, he was going to stop cornermen, he was going to stop timed rounds and everything. So ultimately, Lexis King did get the win. It was a straight up wrestling match now. I guess it's basically this is a third title, but instead of a belt, it's a cup. And there's no special rules to it. So anyway, it was a good match. Very good match. Then you've got the NXT North American Women's Champion, Fallon Henley. She's walking with Fatal Influence, and they are talking about strength in numbers, and Kalani Jordan shows up, letting it be known that she wants her rematch, and then Jada Parker also enters, and she comes in saying she wants a shot too. Shanti the Adonis then inserts himself, making a case for his girlfriend, Carmen Petrovich, who wasn't on the show, but what's his name? Shanti the Adonis was, which I thought was weird. And then basically it's just chaos. And Fallon Henley and Fatal Influence basically walk away, and everybody's just kind of like arguing with each other, which is interesting. So the next match we have is Zarya versus Nikita Lyons, which is set up earlier, which I had talked about. This was a really decent match. It was really nice for them to showcase and remind us what Zarya can really do. Like Zarya was Zarya. She played up the strength. Obviously she's a buff woman. And Nikita Lyons is not a small woman. I'm trying to be nice. So it was really nice to see Nikita Lyons basically showcase her strength. And I'm waiting for Jordynne Grace to come on. And I want to see Jordynne Grace and Zarya have a program together, because that's going to be muddy. That's going to be money. I hope for Stand and Deliver, but we'll see what happens. But ultimately, Zarya did win the match with an F5, which is, I don't know if they're calling it that, but it's basically the same move that Brock Lesnar does, so that's what I'm calling it, F5. Then a short little interview with in the balcony with Sarah and Trick Williams. Trick then, of course, he does accept, shock of shocks, he does accept Eddie Thorpe's challenge for a strap match. Again, I think I said this last week. I'm not sure if they're going to do it. They haven't said whether they're doing a strap match, like four corners, touch four corners, or if they're doing a strap match where you just pin the person, or just or make them submit. I'm not sure, but anyway, Trick Williams accepted the challenge, to the surprise of absolutely nobody. And yeah, by the way, I'll talk about this later. So we talked about Ricky Starks. He came out next. Again, we don't know what his name is going to be. I think they're playing around with some different things. I guess Ricky Starks is owned by AEW, so they can't use his name, which is weird because most names in AEW, I don't think they trademark. I didn't think they trademarked, but I guess it seems like you can't use this name, or they're trying to buy the rights to it or something. I'm not sure. So we'll see how that works out. Then we have the steel cage match, the main event, which is the steel cage match for the North American Championship with Tony D'Angelo and Ridge Holland. This match was slow in the beginning and picked up at the end. And at the end, there was when Tony D'Angelo kind of got back up from getting an overall beat down for a while, he just was throwing him against the cage back and forth, just really just kicking his butt. Eventually what happened was Izzy Dane comes out, because she wasn't out initially. The rest of the family's out there, but they can't get in the cage because there's a cage. And Izzy Dane comes out with a crowbar. And first she starts to put it in, and then Stax is like, "What are you doing?" Like, blah, blah, blah. And then Stax ends up putting it in anyway. There's a fight between Ridge and Tony D'Angelo over who's going to get control of the crowbar. Ends up being Ridge, who basically beats the crap out of Tony with it and tries to go for the pin, and Tony kicks out, which was I was actually kind of surprised. And then Tony kicks out, starts beating on Ridge, and does the spine buster and gets the win. They open the cage door, so now Tony continues, he retains the title. Then they open the cage door. Ridge comes out, starts beating the crap out of Stax and the other guy. I always forget his name. While Adriana Rizzo goes into the ring to console Tony D'Angelo, and as that happens, and then Izzy Dane eventually comes in too, because she was out there. And then Sean Spears and his little crew come out, and attack Tony D'Angelo. Well, so they come out, and Izzy Dane actually hits Tony D'Angelo with the crowbar. And so Izzy Dane is a part of, I guess Sean Spears finally convinced her that she should go with him. And Sean Spears, he's one of the guys from AEW that was really good. And him, Ethan Page, and now Ricky Starks. There was somebody else Lexis King, who used to be Brian Pillman Jr. All those guys come over, and now they all have prominent roles. They all have prominent roles in NXT. So I heard something. I don't know, something at Eric Bischoff's show that he does 83 weeks or whatever it's called, where basically it feels like AEW just holds people back. And this is not an AEW show, and I'm not here to downplay AEW, but look at the people that are thriving and really just doing so well. At Ethan Page has been money ever since he walked in the door. Lexis King, current Heritage Cup champion, has had a storyline virtually every week that he's been there. Sean Spears, there was some low time with him, and now he's back on TV and starting another faction. Because, there's a vacuum now where Chase University was. And by the way, speaking of Chase University, I don't know if anybody heard, but not last weekend with all the releases, but the weekend before, Duke Hudson was released from NXT as well, from WWE. So they're not bringing... I haven't seen Thea Hale forever, except on Instagram. I don't know what's going on with her. And TikTok. And Duke Hudson now has been released. And what the heck is this? Adrian Chase? Yeah. He's just basically walking backstage every week, disheveled and dejected about Chase University. I don't know what's going on. This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But anyway, this was a great episode. Honestly, I can't wait for Vengeance Day. I think it's going to be a great card. Starts at 6:00 this week. I feel that usually when it starts early like that, when it starts like earlier than 7 or 8 o'clock, that's because there's a UFC fight on, and they want to be sure that the pay-per-view is done the WWE pay-per-view is done before the UFC fight at 10. So I think that's why they make it at 6. That's my own personal opinion. I think I'm right, actually, on that one. Because of the whole TKO thing. They own both companies. So, yeah. Again, great episode. I can't wait for Vengeance Day. I will be doing a recap, a review of Vengeance Day on Sunday. So be prepared for that. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you soon. Don't forget, WWE Podcast, all the stuff. You can listen ad-free, Patreon, on Apple, on Spotify, all the things. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.